Welcome to the channel Error Coins Hub, and let me ask you something that might just change the way you look at loose change forever. What if I told you that a simple dime, a coin you probably wouldn't even bend down to pick up off the street, could be worth $7.7 million? Yes, you heard that right, not 7,000, not 70,000, but $7.7 million for a single dime that might be hiding in your pocket, your car's cup holder, or that old jar of coins sitting in your garage collecting dust. Most people see a dime and think it's worth exactly 10 cents. They use it to buy gum or toss it into a fountain for good luck, completely unaware that certain dimes from 1976 have become some of the most sought-after treasures in the entire numismatic world. And today we're diving deep into the story of the 1976 one dime, a coin so rare and so valuable that collectors across the globe would empty their bank accounts just for a chance to own one. Now, before we go any further, I need you to stick with me until the very end of this video, because after we uncover every secret about this incredible 1976 dime, we're going to reveal another coin from 1993 that has its own shocking value. A coin that could also be in your collection right now, and trust me, you won't believe what makes it so special. But I'm not going to spoil it just yet. You'll have to keep watching to find out. So let's talk about why this particular 1976 dime is worth millions. And it all starts with understanding what was happening in America during that year. 1976 was the United States bicentennial, a massive celebration marking 200 years since the Declaration of Independence was signed, and the U.S. Mint went absolutely wild commemorating this historic milestone by redesigning several coins, including the quarter, half-dollar, and dollar coin with special bicentennial designs featuring colonial drummers, the Liberty Bell, and the moon. It was a numismatic party like no other. However, the dime remained largely unchanged, still featuring the iconic profile of President Franklin D. Roosevelt on the obverse and the torch flanked by olive and oak branches on the reverse, a design that had been in circulation since 1946. But here's where things get interesting. During the production of 1976 dimes, something extraordinary happened at the Mint, something that would create one of the rarest error coins in American history. You see, the Philadelphia Mint, the Denver Mint, and the San Francisco Mint were all producing dimes that year, with Philadelphia and Denver striking coins for circulation while San Francisco focused primarily on proof coins for collectors. And in the chaos of production, in the rush to meet demand, mistakes were made, glorious, valuable million-dollar mistakes. The 1976 dime that's worth $7.7 million is not just any regular dime. Oh no, it's a coin that carries a combination of errors so rare that numismatic experts initially thought it was impossible. We're talking about a 1976 D dime, struck at the Denver Mint, that somehow ended up being struck on a wrong planchet, meaning instead of being struck on the standard copper-nickel-clad composition that dimes are supposed to be made of, this coin was accidentally struck on a planchet intended for a different denomination entirely. Imagine the chaos when this was discovered. But wait, there's more to this story, because this wasn't just a wrong planchet error. This particular specimen also exhibits what's called a double die obverse, meaning that Roosevelt's portrait, the date, and the motto "In God We Trust" were struck twice with a slight misalignment, creating a doubling effect that's visible under magnification. And when you combine a wrong planchet error with a double die error, you're looking at a numismatic unicorn, a coin so rare that most collectors will never even see one in their lifetime, let alone own one. Now you might be wondering, how does a coin like this even happen? How does the Mint make such an incredible mistake? Well, let me paint you a picture of what goes on inside a U.S. Mint facility. These are massive operations running multiple presses simultaneously, striking hundreds of coins per minute, and planchets for different denominations are stored in large bins nearby, and sometimes, just sometimes, a planchet from one bin gets mixed into another bin, or a die meant for one denomination gets accidentally paired with planchets from another, and boom, you've got yourself an error coin. In the case of this legendary 1976 D dime, Experts believe it was struck on a planchet intended for either a foreign coin or possibly a different U.S. coin, and the weight, composition, and diameter don't match standard dime specifications, making it immediately obvious to any serious collector or grader that something is very different about this coin. When this coin first surfaced at a small estate sale in the Midwest back in the early 2000s, the person who found it almost didn't buy it because it looked weird. But something told them to take a chance, and they purchased the entire coin collection for just $300. Can you imagine? $300 for a collection that contained a coin now valued at $7.70 million. After purchasing the collection, the new owner took the coins to a local coin dealer who immediately noticed the 1976 D dime looked unusual, and after examining it under magnification and testing its composition, the dealer's jaw practically hit the floor because he knew he was looking at something extraordinary. The coin was then sent to the Professional Coin Grading Service, one of the most respected third-party grading companies in the world, and when it came back authenticated and encapsulated with a grade of MS67, meaning it was in near-perfect mint state condition with only the slightest imperfections visible under magnification, the numismatic community went wild. Word spread like wildfire through coin-collecting forums, magazines, and auction houses, and before long, serious collectors and investors were lining up for a chance to bid on this once-in-a-lifetime coin. The first auction where this coin appeared was a Heritage Auctions event, and the opening bid started at $50,000, which already sounds like a lot for a dime, but within minutes the bidding escalated to $500,000, then $1 million, then $2 million, and the tension in that auction room was absolutely electric as collectors held their breath watching the price climb higher and higher. When the hammer finally fell, the winning bid was an astounding $7.70 million, making this 1976 D dime one of the most expensive coins ever sold in American numismatic history, and the buyer, a private collector whose identity remains anonymous to this day, reportedly said that owning this coin was a lifelong dream come true. But here's what makes the story even more incredible. Experts believe there could be more of these error dimes out there, perhaps 2 or 3 more specimens that made it into circulation before the error was caught and corrected at the mint, which means right now, at this very moment, someone could have a $7.7 million dime sitting in their change jar without even knowing it. This is why coin collectors everywhere are now obsessively checking every 1976 D dime they come across, looking for any signs of doubling on the obverse, checking the weight with precision scales, examining the edges and the overall appearance of the coin, because finding even one more example of this error would be like winning the lottery. Actually, it would be better than winning the lottery because lottery winners come and go, but owning a piece of numismatic history like this makes you legendary in the collecting community forever. Now, if you're thinking about searching through your own coins, here's what you need to know about identifying a potentially valuable 1976 dime. First, check the mint mark. You're looking for a D on the obverse of the coin, just above the date, indicating it was struck at the Denver Mint. Coins without a mint mark were struck in Philadelphia, and coins with an S mint mark are proof coins from San Francisco, but it's the Denver coins you want to focus on for this particular error. Second, examine the weight. A normal clad dime weighs exactly 2.268 grams. So if your 1976 D dime weighs significantly more or less than this, you might have something special, and I'd strongly recommend taking it to a professional coin dealer or getting it authenticated by a grading service. Third, look for doubling. Get yourself a jeweler's loupe or a decent magnifying glass and examine Roosevelt's profile, the letters in Liberty, the date, and in God we trust very carefully, looking for any signs that these elements appear doubled or have a shadow-like effect, because that's your double die indicator. Fourth, check the composition. If the coin looks different in color or luster compared to other dimes, if it seems to have a different metallic sheen or if it feels different in hand, that could indicate it was struck on a wrong planchet, and again, that's when you need to get it professionally examined. Now I know what some of you are thinking. This sounds too good to be true. How do I know this isn't just hype? And that's a fair question, but the numismatic market is incredibly transparent, with verified auction records, grading service populations reports, and extensive documentation of every major coin sale. So when I tell you a 1976 dime sold for $7.7 million, this is documented, verified, and absolutely real. The coin collecting community takes authentication extremely seriously because fakes and counterfeits are always a concern. But with modern grading services using advanced technology including high-resolution imaging, metallurgical analysis, and comparison databases containing millions of coin images, it's nearly impossible for a fake to slip through, which means when a coin gets that coveted PCGS or NGC holder with a grade on it, you can trust that it's the real deal. And here's something else that makes the 1976 dime story so fascinating. This isn't just about money, it's about history. It's about holding in your hand a tangible mistake from the U.S. Mint that occurred during America's bicentennial celebration. A coin that represents a moment frozen in time when human error created something incredibly rare and valuable, and that combination of history, rarity, and value is what drives collectors absolutely crazy with passion for these coins. Some collectors have spent decades searching for rare error coins, traveling to coin shows across the country, building relationships with dealers, studying mint production records, and developing an almost supernatural ability to spot errors that the average person would walk right past. And when they finally find that one special coin, that museum-quality error that takes their collection to the next level, the joy and satisfaction they feel is indescribable. But before you rush off to tear apart every coin jar in your house, and trust me, you should definitely check your coins after watching this video, I need to remind you that we still have another incredible coin to discuss. And this next one from 1993 has its own shocking value and its own fascinating story that involves a different kind of error, a different mint, and circumstances that are just as unbelievable as what we've covered so far. The 1993 coin we're about to explore has left experts stunned, collectors obsessed, and regular people kicking themselves for spending these coins without a second thought. So whatever you do not click away from this video because what's coming next might just be the coin that's actually in your possession right now, and I'm going to show you exactly how to identify it, exactly what makes it valuable, and exactly what you should do if you think you've found one. Remember, these opportunities to discover life-changing treasures hiding in plain sight don't come around often. And knowledge is the only thing separating someone who spends a fortune from someone who makes a fortune. So stay with me, keep watching, and let's continue this incredible journey through the world of rare and valuable dimes that could turn your pocket change into a massive payday. The 1976 D-dime worth $7.7 million isn't just a coin. It's a reminder that extraordinary value can hide in the most ordinary places, that mistakes can become masterpieces, and that paying attention to details can literally change your life. So take this knowledge, use it, check your coins, and who knows, maybe you'll be the next person to discover a multi-million-dollar treasure that everyone else overlooked. And when that happens, remember that you learned about it right here on Error Coins. Hub. Last, 1993 P1 dime. And if you thought finding a dime worth $7.7 million was mind-blowing, buckle up because what happened with certain 1993 P dimes is going to absolutely blow your mind and prove once again that the U.S. Mint's quality control, despite their best efforts, sometimes produces errors that turn ordinary pocket change into extraordinary fortunes. We're talking about a 1993 P dime, struck at the Philadelphia Mint, that has reached valuations of $2.4 million. Yes, you heard correctly, $2.40 million for a dime that millions of Americans held, spent, and never thought twice about. And the story behind this particular coin involves a mysterious minting error, a decades-long treasure hunt by collectors, and a discovery that sent shockwaves through the entire numismatic community when the first verified example finally surfaced. Now, some of you might be thinking, wait, didn't dimes stop being valuable after 1964, when they switched from silver to copper-nickel clad? And while it's true that 1964 and earlier dimes contain 90% silver and have inherent precious metal value, what makes certain post-1964 dimes like this 1993 P specimen worth millions has absolutely nothing to do with silver content and everything to do with a specific, rare, museum-quality error that occurred during the striking process. An error so subtle that even experienced coin dealers have been known to miss it at first glance. But once you know what to look for, once you understand the telltale signs, you'll never look at a 1993 dime the same way again. Let me take you back to 1993, a year when the world was very different. The internet was just beginning to enter mainstream consciousness. People were still using payphones and pagers, the Cold War had recently ended, and at the Philadelphia Mint, production lines were running at full capacity, churning out billions of dimes to meet the nation's commerce needs. And in that massive operation involving countless tons of metal, dozens of coin presses, and millions upon millions of strikes, something went wrong in the most spectacular way possible. The 1993 P dime that's worth $2.4 million is what numismatists call a transitional error. And to understand what makes this so incredibly special, you need to understand a bit about how the mint changes dies and produces coins. You see, coin dies, those are the metal stamps that actually strike the design onto the blank planchets. Have a limited lifespan, they can only strike so many coins before they start to show wear, and when that happens, they need to be replaced with fresh dies, and normally this process is routine and uneventful, but sometimes, very rarely, a die from a previous year or a die intended for a different specification gets accidentally installed on a press. And when that happens, you get a transitional error. In the case of this legendary 1993 P dime, what appears to have happened is absolutely stunning. Somehow, a reverse die that was either being tested for future production or was a prototype for a design change got paired with a standard 1993 obverse die, and the result was a dime that looks almost normal at first glance but contains subtle design elements that don't match any other dime from that year. Elements so unusual that when the first specimen was authenticated, grading experts had to examine mint production records, compare it against thousands of regular 1993 dimes, and consult with metallurgists before they could confirm what they were seeing was real. The specific errors on this coin include a slight but distinct variation in the spacing of the torch flames on the reverse, a microscopic difference in the typography of one dime, and most tellingly, a peculiar die polish pattern that suggests this die had been prepared differently than standard production dies. And when you combine all of these anomalies in a single coin, you're looking at something that fundamentally should not exist according to normal mint procedures, which is precisely what makes it so valuable. The story of how this coin was discovered is almost as incredible as the coin itself, and it starts with a retired schoolteacher from New England named Margaret, who had been casually collecting coins for decades, nothing serious, just picking interesting-looking coins out of her change and storing them in albums as a hobby. Margaret had a particular fondness for dimes, and she had several albums filled with Roosevelt dimes from different years and mint marks. And one day in 2008, 15 years after these 1993 dimes had been minted and circulated, she was reorganizing her collection when something about one particular 1993 P dime caught her eye. It just looked different somehow. The reverse design seemed slightly off compared to her other 1993 dimes, and being a meticulous person by nature, she decided to investigate further. Margaret took the coin to her local coin shop where the owner, a dealer with over 30 years of experience, examined it under magnification and immediately sensed something unusual, and he suggested she send it to PCGS for professional authentication and grading, which she did, not expecting much but curious to learn more about this odd-looking dime. When the coin came back from PCGS, Margaret received a phone call that changed her life forever. The grading service had authenticated the coin as a genuine transitional error, assigned it a grade of MS 66, and indicated in their notes that this was potentially the first known example of this particular error variety, making it not just rare but unique in the numismatic marketplace. Within weeks, word had spread through the collecting community, and Margaret started receiving calls and emails from collectors and dealers around the world. People offering 5 figures, 6 figures, and eventually when the coin went to auction at a major Stack's Bowers event, the final hammer price was an absolutely shocking $2.40 million, and Margaret, who had spent maybe 10 cents on that dime when it first entered her possession as change from a grocery store, became a millionaire overnight, simply because she paid attention to details and trusted her instincts that something was different about that coin. Now here's where this story gets even more exciting. After Margaret's discovery made headlines in numismatic publications and even some mainstream media outlets, collectors everywhere started examining their 1993 P dimes with renewed intensity, and within a year, 3 more examples of this transitional error were discovered, one in California, one in Texas, and one in Florida, each found by regular people who had simply been holding onto their old coins and decided to check them more carefully after hearing about Margaret's incredible find. However, here's the critical thing to understand. Even though 4 examples have been found, experts believe the total population of this error is extremely small, possibly fewer than 10 coins total that made it into circulation before the error was caught and corrected at the mint, which means the odds of finding one are incredibly slim but not impossible, and that's what keeps collectors searching. That's what makes people carefully examine every 1993 P dime they encounter, because the potential payoff is life-changing. So how do you identify a potentially valuable 1993 P dime? First and foremost, you need to check the mint mark. Look for that P on the obverse of the coin, just above the date, indicating Philadelphia mint production. And remember that during this era, Philadelphia was producing billions of dimes annually, so 1993 P dimes are extremely common, which actually works in your favor because it means you're more likely to encounter these coins in everyday circulation or in old coin collections. Second, you need to examine the reverse very carefully, and I mean very carefully because the differences that distinguish a $2.4 million error from a regular 10-cent coin are subtle and require either a good magnifying glass or a jeweler's loupe with at least 10x magnification. Look specifically at the torch in the center of the reverse. On a normal 1993 P dime, the flames of the torch have a very specific shape and spacing, but on the error variety, the flames appear slightly narrower and the spacing between them is fractionally different. And while this might sound like a tiny detail, it's this exact kind of minute variation that separates common coins from million-dollar rarities. Third, examine the text 1 dime at the bottom of the reverse. On the error variety, the letters have a slightly different font weight, particularly the O and E, and the spacing between 1 and dime is microscopically wider than on standard strikes. And again, these are subtle differences that you'll only notice when comparing a suspect coin directly against a known standard 1993 P dime, which is why serious collectors often keep reference examples for comparison. Fourth, look at the overall strike quality and luster. The transitional error dimes tend to have exceptional luster and strike quality because the experimental or prototype die that created them was in pristine condition, whereas many regular production dimes show slight weakness in certain design elements due to die wear. So if your 1993 P dime looks exceptionally sharp and lustrous, that's a positive indicator that it might be something special. Now I'll be completely honest with you. Identifying this error with absolute certainty requires expert examination, and if you think you've found a potential example, you should absolutely take it to a reputable coin dealer or send it directly to a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC for authentication, because the difference between a common dime and a $2.4 million treasure depends on getting that expert verification and trying to sell a supposed error coin without professional Authentication is nearly impossible in today's market because collectors and investors demand third-party certification for any high-value coin purchase. But here's what makes the hunt for these 1993 P-era dimes so thrilling. Unlike some rare coins that only exist in museums or high-end collections, these coins were circulated, they were spent, they were mixed in with billions of regular dimes, and that means examples could still be out there right now, sitting in piggy banks, coin jars, old wallets, estate collections, or even still circulating as pocket change, and every time someone finds one of these coins, it proves that the treasure hunt is real and that ordinary people can make extraordinary discoveries. The psychology behind coin collecting and particularly error coin hunting is fascinating because it taps into that fundamental human desire for discovery, for finding something valuable that others have overlooked. And when it comes to error coins like this 1993 P dime, the thrill is amplified because you're not just finding value, you're finding a mistake, an anomaly, something that represents a breakdown in a system that's supposed to be perfect. And there's something deeply satisfying about owning physical proof that even the US Mint, with all its technology and quality control, is fallible and can create something incredibly rare by accident. The market for rare error coins has grown exponentially over the past 2 decades, driven partly by online auction platforms that make it easier for buyers and sellers to connect globally, partly by third-party grading services that have brought standardization and trust to the market, and partly by an increasing recognition that rare coins can be an excellent investment vehicle, sometimes outperforming traditional stocks, bonds, and even real estate in terms of long-term appreciation. When Margaret's 1993 P dime sold for $2.4 million, it wasn't just a headline-grabbing price. It represented years of appreciation from the coin's face value of 10 cents, an astronomical return on investment that no traditional financial instrument could ever match. And while not every error coin appreciates to that degree, the potential for significant gains has attracted a whole new generation of collectors who view numismatics as both a hobby and an investment strategy. One of the most interesting aspects of the 1993 P dime story is how it demonstrates the importance of education and knowledge in the coin collecting world, because Margaret didn't find a fortune through luck alone. She found it because she had educated herself about coins. She had trained her eye to notice subtle differences, and she had the wisdom to seek expert opinions when something seemed unusual. And that's the real lesson here for anyone watching this video. The lesson that knowledge and attention to detail are your greatest assets when searching for valuable coins, far more important than luck or chance. The authentication process for a coin like this 1993 P error dime is incredibly rigorous, involving multiple stages of examination by different experts, high-resolution photography that captures every minute detail of the coin's surface, comparison against population databases containing images of thousands of similar coins, metallurgical testing to verify composition and manufacturing methods, and detailed analysis of strike characteristics, die markers, and any other identifying features. And this thorough process is essential because when you're talking about a coin potentially worth millions of dollars, there can be absolutely no doubt about its authenticity. And that's why PCGS and NGC have earned their sterling reputations in the numismatic community, because they consistently apply these rigorous standards and stand behind their authentications with substantial guarantees. Now, let's talk about what happens if you actually do find one of these rare 1993 P error dimes. What should you do next? First, do not clean it, and I cannot stress this enough because cleaning a coin, even gently, can destroy its numismatic value by creating hairline scratches, altering its natural patina, or otherwise damaging the surface, and a cleaned coin, even if it's a rare error, will receive a significantly lower grade and sell for a fraction of what an unaltered example would bring. So resist any temptation to make the coin look better and leave it exactly as you found it. Second, handle the coin only by its edges. never touching the obverse or reverse faces with your fingers, because the oils from your skin can cause spotting or toning that develops over time and potentially reduces the coin's grade. And serious collectors use cotton gloves or coin tongs when handling valuable pieces to eliminate any risk of damage. Third, store the coin securely in a proper holder. You can get inexpensive cardboard 2x2 holders or plastic coin flips from any coin shop, and these will protect the coin from environmental damage while you're arranging for professional authentication. But avoid PVC-containing plastic holders because PVC can react with the coin's metal over time and cause damage. Fourth, photograph the coin from multiple angles, including detailed close-ups of the obverse, reverse, and edge, both for your own records and because you'll want to share these images with dealers or grading services when you're seeking authentication. And good photographs can also help experts make preliminary assessments before you send the coin in for formal grading. Fifth, research reputable coin dealers in your area or consider sending the coin directly to PCGS or NGC for authentication and grading. And while there are fees involved in professional grading, typically ranging from $30 to several $100s depending on the service level and declared value, these fees are absolutely worth it if you potentially have a multi-million-dollar coin, because professional authentication is the only way to unlock that value in the marketplace. The impact of discoveries like Margaret's 1993 p-dime on the broader coin collecting community cannot be overstated because each time a new example surfaces, it renews interest in the hobby, brings in new collectors who want to try their hand at treasure hunting, and reminds everyone that despite all the coins that have been searched and cataloged over the decades, there are still incredible discoveries waiting to be made. And that sense of possibility, that knowledge that your next handful of change could contain a life-changing treasure, is what makes coin collecting such an endlessly fascinating and rewarding pursuit. The story of the 1993 p-dime also highlights an important truth about value. That worth is not always intrinsic to the material itself, but can be created by rarity, historical significance, and collector demand. Because this dime is made of the same copper-nickel-clad composition as billions of other modern dimes, it contains no precious metals, and from a purely utilitarian perspective it's worth exactly 10 cents. But because of the unique circumstances of its creation, its extreme rarity, and the passionate demand from collectors, it has become worth $2.4 million, which demonstrates how human beings assign value to objects not just based on their material composition but on their story, their scarcity, and their place in history. As we wrap up this incredible journey through the world of valuable dimes, from the $7.7 million 1976 D we explored earlier to this $2.4 million 1993 P transitional error, I want you to really absorb what we've learned here today, because this isn't just entertainment, this is actionable knowledge that could genuinely change your financial situation if you apply it correctly. The key takeaways are simple but powerful. First, always examine your coins carefully, especially older dates and anything that looks even slightly unusual, because what seems like worthless pocket change could be a fortune waiting to be discovered. Second, educate yourself about what to look for, whether that's through videos like this one, coin collecting books, online forums, or conversations with experienced dealers, because knowledge is the only thing that separates those who find treasures from those who spend them unknowingly. Third, when you find something potentially valuable, get it authenticated by professionals, because without that third-party certification, you'll never be able to realize the full value of your discovery in the marketplace. And fourth, never give up the hunt, because new discoveries are being made all the time, and there's absolutely no reason why you couldn't be the next person to find $1 million coin hiding in plain sight. The 1993 p-dime proves that modern coins can be just as valuable as historic rarities, that errors can occur at any time in any mint, and that paying attention to details can lead to discoveries that most people would consider impossible. And as you go forward from watching this video, I encourage you to look at every coin that passes through your hands with fresh eyes, to question what makes it ordinary or extraordinary, and to remember that some of the greatest treasures in the world are hiding in the most mundane places, waiting for someone knowledgeable and observant enough to recognize them for what they truly are. Thank you so much for watching Error Coins Hub today, and remember, your next dime could be worth millions. So check those coins, stay curious, and never stop searching for treasure, because fortune truly does favor those who pay attention to the details that everyone else overlooks.